And we will try to screw it up less next time, although we can't possibly screw it up as badly as the city is screwing this up.
This administration, this department is a big believer of transparency. When something like this comes forward, no matter what it may be, if there's enough of evidence to support the claim, we go forward and we take out the appropriate charges against the officer. And we take out the appropriate charges against the officer. And we take out the appropriate charges against the officer.
And welcome to the This Week in Worcester podcast. I am liar Tom Marino. I am the editor of This Week in Worcester. I'm here with Mr. John Enriquillo. He is the executive producer of Manage Media. He is president of Hollywood Film Group. He is a very valued contributor to This Week in Worcester. And John, aren't we in trouble?
We're in a lot of trouble, Tom.
We got hit with the public naughty stick.
we definitely did. We definitely did. Oh man.
So, This Week in Worcester did a story this week, which I cannot give Mr. Keogh here enough credit for, towing much of the load for the story. And I just we're going to do some screen sharing today, folks, because we're going to look at some things. You may have seen this post here by the Worcester Police Department. A recent article by a local online publication made several false statements and outlandish claims. Outlandish.
I haven't heard that word in a while.
Right? Number one, the article alleges that Chief Saucier asked United States Attorney Foley to file federal charges against the Worcester City Councilor, and that the U.S. Attorney declined to file charges citing lack of evidence. This is false. Number two, after Foley informed Saucier that her office would not file charges, or not charge a counselor, the Patrolman Union president, Mr. Thomas Duffy, became aware of the situation and screamed and threatened Chief Saucier. This is false. Number three, a deputy chief who requested anonymity for fear of union reprisals confirmed this to the writer and was the source of the information. This is false. All three of these claims are false and without merit. We demand that the writer retract them and avoid publishing lies in the future. And it is signed by Chief Paul Saucier, Deputy Chief Kenneth Davenport, Deputy Chief Sean Fleming, Deputy Chief Edward McGinn, Deputy Chief Carl Supernor, and NEPBA 9/11 President Thomas Duffy. Well, that must be it. I'm sure it would be to a deputy chief who had provided information to a news publication. I'm sure that when you ask them, they're just going to come out and be like, "Yeah, it was me," because there'll be no consequences for that. Are you kidding me? Oh, well,
it's great,
guys. So first, I want to let's start off with a nicety. The chief called me Saturday morning. He was obviously not happy, but was very professional. We had, I think, a courteous conversation. I hope he feels that way. I was, as I always am with him and other city officials and most people, I was polite but firm. He didn't ask. I offered that the piece would not be retracted, and that the sources mentioned within would not be revealed under indictment or subpoena. I don't know why indictment makes sense, but that is what I said. I was trying to, really drive home the fact that that's just not going to happen under any circumstances. That's unfortunately probably where the niceties end. I have vocally supported this chief, and I've been less vocal lately because it's been a little tougher, but I have not withdrawn that support. I think the man can be an agent for change. We will get to what I think the story means. I think is everybody's kind of missing, but what I think the story means, which is much different than certainly the chief took it. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about something about the sourcing that we did for this story. Obviously, we're not going to reveal sources. That would be idiotic and practically suicidal as a journalist. After the deputy chief offered information that this incident happened, that Mr. Duffy went to the chief in an area just outside the area where the chief's office is, which could be heard. This conversation was heard from multiple offices on the floor, and said that, as is Duffy's reputation, that he was laying into the chief pretty heavily, and the chief exited the conversation, which sounds like it was very one way, when Duffy said that if the council wasn't charged, that his union and PBA 911 would no longer support him as chief. After the story was published, and pretty soon after the police department put this statement out, and the story has been updated with this information, a captain came forward to verify.
A very specific captain, but we can't say his name because, again,
he also,
he's under duress.
Yeah. It said that they personally, firsthand, heard this conversation.
Yeah.
The story's been updated with notes that indicate that it's been updated and all that. We also talked to, we were at over 36 people.
Well, maybe we might be at 50 now. Not just confirming that they know about this incident, this particular argument, right? But that in general, Mr. Duffy is someone who screams and yells at his coworkers, at people on, when he's been an officer on the street, he yells at people. And of course, we all can just go and watch the December 17th city council meeting, which was not a riot. And you can see him screaming inside the city council chamber. So he's very publicly a person who yells a lot. I have only interacted with him a very small amount of times, and he has not yelled at me. So I can't say he's ever yelled at me. So no one's saying that.
Might change soon.
Oh, maybe it will change. I'm also not afraid of him, or I'm not afraid of bullies in general. And so, I think that in this case, you have a very poor, you kind of work environment over there. And I think that what happened with this story, I think that people over there are kind of sick of it. And we've been talking about this for years now, about the fact that there's a ton of officers who do not want to be associated with this. And, one thing I noticed, Tom, is that other than one person, no one will mention my name because they know how deep my relationships run over there. And that is something that's really hard for them to deal with, is that there's some officers I've been close with, not just for like a day or a couple months, but for decades. And that's not an unknown thing. And I get it. And believe me, the friends that I have there, I know that it's hard for them to be my friend. Right? I get it. I completely understand that. And so the fact is that I can't ever point to a time where they've been dishonest with me about this kind of stuff. So let me put that in one basket. The second basket is I hear shit all the time. All the time. Constantly, I am given city gossip from the police department, the fire department, public works, stuff about the trash company, being full of mobsters.
And I think
constant
it's
story.
yeah, and I
And
think
we
it's,
don't.
people may not realize, like, when you're in this silly business that we chose, you probably print 20% of what you hear, 15% of what you hear, maybe less. I mean,
Maybe
you know,
less.
the things you hear that you don't look into, never mind the stuff that you do look into and doesn't go anywhere, right? I mean, you end up, I don't know what the right percentage number is, but it's a small portion of the things you actually hear. It's not like you hear a thing and it goes to the page. It's just not how it works. Because, I mean, you'll get it wrong. And there's only so much time in the day. So you have to, be selective about what you decide to spend time looking into. And, to fully vet a thing like this, I mean, talking to, 50 plus people or 40 plus people, whatever it is, takes time. And so you're going to pick and choose what you're going to dedicate, significant time to. Go ahead.
Yeah. I felt strong about it when you went to press. I felt strong about it then, because again, by the way, the sources were from more than one organization. It wasn't just the police department that this story was sourced on, and so it is like the confirmation. The two people the two different organizations that I spoke to, they had details and facts about the story that really were hard to be coordinated. It was very difficult. The other thing is that in the follow-up sense, we've heard the same story with slightly different things. And so that usually means that each person is dealing from their own recollection. But there's not one person, other than the statement released on Facebook only by the police department, there has been not one person who's refuted that there was a confrontation, and that there was a phone call between the chief and U.S. Attorney Leah Foley at some point immediately in the wake of the Eureka Street incident. So the substance of the story is that there was this incident on Eureka Street. Council Hajiaj was, a heavy target of criticism in the immediate following days. That there was a conversation between the chief and the U.S. Attorney's Office about charging her with something. The federal authorities determined that they weren't going to make a charge, and the police department decided to charge. The only additional thing that we've been able to bring out is that part of that story was that there was a screaming union leader pushing for the charges, which is very consistent with the unions and their approach to this specific candidate for office.
Yes.
So for years now, they've hated this person, and every election cycle, it seems like there's some story or some criminal element that they've brought up against her. And I mean, some of them outlandish, as they said to us. For example, that what is the one that that she's a fifth column member? She's leading.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, that's Red Metro. You don't read Red Metro, which is good for you.
But I did see. Sorry, I was getting something ready. Anti-police activist, of course. That's what Duffy keeps saying. Anti-police activist. Because look, in their mind, anybody who wants to do any reform over there. See, they're still going with this byline. They'll say, "Oh, we're humans and we're not perfect," but then when you want them to talk about an instance when they're not perfect, they won't talk about it.
Yeah.
And so, there is a real fear amongst people like Duffy that any reform will happen because people like Duffy have it made. They can do whatever they want and it will be covered up.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, that's the other thing is that there's definitive evidence now out there, and if you want to do the work, that Mr. Duffy's been involved in a lot of stuff that's really, really highly questionable, and he's never been investigated.
We're going to talk about one of those in a minute.
Yeah, I know you are. So I'm kind of setting it up, right? So, but the point is that I'm not a police officer, right? Neither are you, and I believe strongly, and I think most people believe that the police should be held to some form of a higher standard related to their job. Okay, so like if you are, maybe if you have personal problems at home, I'm not saying that a police officer should be judged based on their personal issues. I'm not saying that. But once you get to work and you have the badge on, there are certain levels of behavior and composure that you should be held to. I have a temper. I've gotten mad before. I've gotten mad at City Hall before. I've gotten mad in this box before. All those things are true. That's true. I've gotten upset in my life. But saying that an officer and I should be viewed in the same light is kind of silly. Now, I don't mind being held to a higher standard. And I think that we are at this point, because believe me, I've had people come back at me. Like when I got upset a couple of weeks ago, I had some people that I'm close to who came to me and said, "Hey, John, you need to you shouldn't be doing that." And so I do get, and I took the criticism and accepted it, and I think it was valid criticism, right? So when I get upset, that's one thing. Second thing is, and this is something that Tom and I literally deal with all the time, is we're writing articles together all the time. And so we have said no to some of the worst things you've ever heard of because we couldn't get even close to what we got with this story. Not even in the same room as this story. This story, at this point, we're approaching 50 people. 50 people.
Let me. I just want to get the appropriate context on that.
Yeah.
So we have the two people that experienced this confrontation firsthand.
Yeah.
But the other people we talked to, everybody knows about this. Like everybody, This was, according to many people we talked to, this was like the gossip of, this was the shop talk for, several days after it happened.
Yes. And still now.
Like anything, like any workplace, this was the gossip of the day. And it's not just the police department. I mean, we've talked to people in City Hall, in city manager's office, even that know about this. Now, did we talk to people who did not confirm this? Yes, but it's all the ones I talked to. I think we talked about. I think all the ones you talked to too. Nobody said no. I haven't heard about that. What they said is, I'm not going to talk. Some version of, I'm not going to talk about that.
Yes, yes. So that and that's why we went with the story, because no one ever outright denied it. In fact, if you go read the article, if you go read the statement the police released, they didn't deny the whole story. Everybody, they just denied certain parts, and they kind of constructed it very, very carefully. So it was written on purpose in a particular way. But one thing that was not denied, that the chief and the U.S. attorney had a phone call, that was not denied. So we somehow Tom and I were able to find that out, right? Which means that maybe
we made up.
Yeah. So, but maybe our source that told us about that phone call, that person's not a liar, right? And specifically, they allowed us to say that they're a staff attorney for the Department of Justice that works in that office. That's a very specific thing. Now, that's way more specific than some of the general stuff we've been given in the past. So that's, if we get in that specific, now Tom and I have an obligation to investigate. Okay, so then the second part, the internal police people, when we first, I'm telling you, Tom and I worked on this for, 48 hours. And we went back and forth about the specifics of this person's, what they gave us. One, that they were a deputy chief. The second, that they were afraid of union reprisals, right? Which is something that, again, any officer in the city of Worcester, when you step out of line here, the union comes down on you like a ton of bricks. And only because I know him well, but Bill Gardner comes to mind immediately. For 15 years straight now, the unions have been hammering him because he at one point questioned them, right? And now I'm not talking about Bill's personal life or any details, but I do know he's spoken out against them, and they rail against him to this day. So there's evidence that if you step out of line as an officer in this city, you will be hammered, both personally and professionally. And so that tracks with what this person told us, right? So we have evidence again that this is a pattern of behavior. Further, we have at least 2 distinct investigations that have happened over the past, 2 years that indicate, again, very similar behavior when it comes to confrontational style of work over there. So that's then secondary and tertiary additional evidence that Tom and I are working with when we're talking about a story. I don't know that there's any newspaper in this city other than us that would have done the work that we did. If they got that phone call that I received, they would have ran with the story immediately, but they didn't. But we did not. We worked hard to confirm it multiple ways, and so the police can release whatever statement saying it's false that they want, but it's not false. Our sources are telling the truth, and I'm legitimately worried for them that they've given us this information, because I do believe that they might be under duress, about it. So, people being forced to sign statements, that is very much in line with our story. So, I don't know how people can't see that logically. And so then that's really my support for Tom's story. Now, Tom's got some other stuff he's going to cover that goes in even more depth on this kind of stuff.
So yeah, I think everybody's kind of missing the boat on what the story actually means, including the chief. Frankly, I think that the initial cut at this is that it makes the chief look weak because he's under pressure from the union to do this thing, and then they did it. One, we don't know that he wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have done that anyway without this confrontation. Maybe that could very well be what he believes, that this was the right thing to do. I wholly disagree, but nonetheless. But maybe there's some truth that it makes him look weak, but it's not weak-willed. The city council and this city manager have done exactly what I've said from the council floor, from the podium at city council, that the worst thing they can do with putting Chief Saucier in that role is they've abandoned him. They've done nothing at all to help him. They have just swapped out the last leader for a better leader. And then it's on you, buddy. And while the person who leads the whole organization is very important, one guy can't change decades of trash. And let's just be honest. Like, if they don't want to parse words, then neither do I. The Worcester Police Department is terrible. You don't get investigated, regardless of what the investigation found. You don't get investigated by the Department of Justice. It's only happened like 80 times in 30 years. So this idea that we're one of the best police departments in the country, you're out of your mind. You're empirically crazy. So can we just get to reality, and then we can work on fixing it? But they don't even want to admit there's anything to fix, because then they'll be admitting that it's not perfect, and then they'll be admitting that maybe accountability is important, and that's the last thing they want. Because again, right now you can do almost anything you want, and it'll just get washed away by their internal cover-up unit. So there's, especially people that have been there a long time, and somebody that's racked up 26 cases of internal investigations, including 15 accusations of unreasonable force, like Duffy. It's really scary for it to change, because he got acquitted. They let him loose on every one of those accusations. And he doesn't want that to change, right? Meanwhile, you have this crop of young people in there that actually want to do the job well and actually give a damn, and haven't been beaten into submission to be jaded. And what they're seeing is, being reinforced over and over and over again, is don't do it the right and hard way. Just beat the crap out of people, because nothing will happen to you. That's what they're being taught.
Yeah, and I that's the thing, is that I think that we're seeing that. I think that when you see people introduce behavior, whatever the behavior is, but particularly negative public behavior, you're seeing the establishment of that being a regular thing, right? That becomes normal, right? And so then it's normal to do things, right? So, some of the stuff that we were watching at the national level is a pattern of behavior that's being normalized, that we can't say, our generation, that this is something that we're used to, right? We're just not at this scale, and not universally across the nation, right? So maybe there's some particular incidents, like during 2020, where there was a bunch of cities where there was some riots, or if you want to go back to 1992, Los Angeles. But just realistically speaking, nationwide unrest is a completely novel thing for the vast majority of people. So when we're seeing a different governmental response to those, to whatever, it creates this idea that, well, at least they're not shooting people kind of idea, right? But here in the city of Worcester, we've been having this long, multi-decade conversation about this normalization of behavior, and the exact same thing has been, that's not true, that's not happening, that's not true, that's not happening, and we just need the next person will take it over, the next person will clean it up, the next person will fix it. And we've gone through a series of chiefs that haven't fixed it, that it hasn't changed. And this is not an abnormal thing. This is something that has existed for 30, 40, 50 years now. And so when we point it out and they respond in the same way, and then they get mad when we say this is a pattern, right? This is, and then when other outside organizations come in and say the same thing, they're upset. But the thing is that I just don't think, Tom, they're able to pull themselves away and really see what's happened. But I do think that what we're seeing with the sourcing that you and I have had over this past week in particular, I think people are seeing what's happening nationally. I think they're seeing what's happening at our state level. I think they saw what happened in our city on May 8th. And I think that they're starting to say, hey, I got to be on one side or the other of this thing. Like, I can't just participate in these things. So I really do believe that the person who called me is a hero. Because they're putting their career, 100% putting their career on the line by talking to me. And so that person deserves to be protected, because
Absolutely.
they've revealed a thesis that Tom and I have said, which is that there are good cops there that want to do the right thing. And this guy has clearly shown that by reaching out and telling us these things. They do want to do the right thing. And so when Tom and I say we're for good cops, this is one of the cops that we're for. This guy, right? And not the ones that won't. Now, at this point, I've talked to almost 50 people. 50, almost 50. It's like 43, I think, exactly. And then some other organizations get us close to 50. Those are all officers who have reached out to confirm what we said, not to deny it. And so that means that if you look at it in the view of that, that's a good sign for the city of Worcester, because in other places around the country, you're not seeing that kind of response, right? You're seeing some officers participate with some of this radical behavior from ICE and from the Homeland Security Department that we've never seen in our lifetimes. So, like, that's, we need to encourage that. And so, but that Tom's reporting on that's a great thing for the city. Great thing for the city.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I just want to reiterate that people declined to comment, for sure. Definitely had that. Nobody said, no, I haven't heard that. Nobody. So, and I don't.
Well, hold on, Tom. Except for the people that hate you and me. So the people that hate you and me, without any evidence, without any conversations with anybody in the police department, because no one likes them except for, well, anyways, it doesn't matter. Other than the people that hate you and me, no one has denied it. But those people are denying it based on their personal feelings for me and Tom.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Irrelevant had all kinds of things to say. Didn't ask me a question. No evidence. This person thinks that they're a journalist. They're running a news organization on a Facebook page. Loser. And so, one thing I could say, one thing I would suggest, and I have many suggestions. I wrote a piece with suggestions about how, to do the things you could do to reform this police department, none of which has ever even been talked about. But one thing you could do, you see, is the city council could pass this thing. I think they may have forgotten what they're called. It's called an ordinance. It's like a local law, folks.
Wait a second, Tom. The city council makes law in the city of Worcester?
And not only that, but they can do it without the permission of the city manager, if you can imagine that.
No, I don't know, dude. You're gonna have to give me evidence for that. You have to show me.
I mean, they did make a big deal about how independent they are this year. Of course, that was to avoid, dealing with a problem they had. But they did say that they were an independent body. They decided to bring that up when convenient. They are a legislature. They were a separate branch of government. You've heard me say, most of you have heard me say this before. But what they could do is, for example, they could create by ordinance a system to say accredit or like approve internal investigators, not just at the police department, but government wide. And then they could lay out standards for those investigators, right? Because of course, if they're being approved, they have to meet some standards. And within that, they could also do this crazy thing. They could use the perjury standard, knowingly providing false information, and make the penalty for that immediate termination. Now, there are, collective bargaining agreements with unions that would weirdly, I was surprised to find this out, would supersede that. The council can't just invalidate part of the contract by passing a law. But when those contracts come up for renewal, it is now you have a city manager who can't negotiate into a new contract, a thing that is illegal, right? And that's how you start to turn the tide. Because right now, I want to say this loud and clear for everyone, because I don't think people understand the penalty for lying to an internal investigation in this city, for at least lying to BOPs. I'm not sure about it if there's other stuff in other departments, but the penalty for lying to BOPs in the course of an investigation is nothing.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do
that? So again, this is why, first of all, Tom and I are grateful to all the people who are watching. We see that you guys are consistently coming out week after week, and so we're grateful for that. One of the things that we are trying to do is point out things that seem innocuous at the moment, but really are part of a larger pattern of kind of this like closed door, behind the scenes negotiation that only kind of pops its head out at times during the city council meetings itself. So at the budget meeting for the police budget, an interesting thing came out, which is related to the body cameras. So if you remember, there was a huge controversy over the additional stipend that was given to officers who wear the body cameras, right? If you remember that, it's like $1,700 a year, right?
Yeah.
And so the big thing. Now, what the city manager had to say at that meeting was that stipend only applied to officers who were under contract at that time. In the current negotiation period, new officers who come on board, so all these new classes that you're seeing, those officers, it doesn't apply to them, so they don't receive it. Okay. So why does that matter in Massachusetts, Tom? Well, the reason it matters is because the level of income that you receive as a municipal or state employee determines in the future your pension, right? So you get a percentage of money related to how much you made, and it's usually, and right now in the police department of Worcester, it's your best 5 years. So your best 5 years, you get a specific percentage of your best 5 years that you make. So it behooves the police officers, and you see this often as captains and chiefs get closer, they start taking on a lot more detail pay and significant pay. It increases the volume of their pay in those 5 years. Then when they retire, it makes their pension much more significant for the rest of their lives. Because in our state, municipal and state employees have lifetime pensions. It's very important to understand that when you see some of these controversies. So that $1,700 doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a lot if you think about it in terms of maybe it's an 80% of that is going to be given to you for the rest of your life. Right? So after you retire, so when you're 65 or 70 or whatever age it is you retire, the next 20 plus years is bumped up that little amount. That means a lot to those folks, especially when you've been receiving that income for many, many years, right? So it's hard when you're making, hey, if you're making 50 grand or less, like me and Tom are,
Ain't that the truth?
right? And then you go from 50 grand to like 250 grand, it makes a difference. But when you're making 200 grand every year for a decade, you probably begin to adjust your lifestyle to live within that income range, right? And so it's harder to live with less when you get older. Children, grandchildren, colleges, houses, cars, yada, 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 vacations in Trinidad and Tobago. Those are the kind of things that you're dealing with. So remember, most of the time they're arguing about their pensions. And the union's job is to protect those pensions. That's what they're literally hired to do. So a lot of the angst is related to future pay, if you want to really break it down. So pay attention to these meetings. That's why I encourage you, come to Tuesday or watch Tuesday so you can see where the pressure points are coming from, because it's related to those pensions almost all the time.
And so, like I give you, one suggestion, one thing that I think would certainly change how internal discipline works and internal investigations, because as we'll see, when people get put under oath, they tend to tell the truth, because if not, they could go to prison. And so, given in the spirit of calling people liars, I think it would cover some lies. Some lies that are tolerated by the Worcester Police Department, that are tolerated by the city manager's office. And these are the people that they leave on the street to continue to do it again, over and over, and have just a total disinterest in, just not concerned at all with wrongful incarceration. I got like a 2 minute and 30-some second video. I don't know if we got to watch it all to get the point. It was done by the Telegram several years ago, and I think it highlights just how ridiculous it is that Thomas Duffy's running around to media organizations talking about what people should be prosecuted for. Oh yeah, I got to do this, and then I got to do. Yeah, here we go. This is from the Telegram a few years ago.
City lawyer Hector Pinheiro has filed a voluminous complaint with authorities demanding an investigation into allegations of unconstitutional and deceptive practices by police. In one case, Mr. Pinheiro alleged police arrested a man on a shooting charge on scant evidence and after sending the brother of a gang officer home from the scene in a cab. Jose Batista, the officer's brother, was later charged with the shooting after video emerged of the shooting and of him in the area where the gun and casings were found. Shooting occurred February 20th, 2016, around 2:18 a.m. near a bar on Water Street, when a man emerged from the shadows and fired shots in the direction of a vehicle. A responding officer to the scene, Jesus Candelaria, wrote in his report that when he got there, off-duty gang officer Tom Duffy had spoken to Batista at the scene. Batista told police a man named Grace Catania had shot at him. Officer Candelaria left the scene for several minutes, returning to find Batista gone. Officer Candelaria wrote in his report that where Batista had been standing, he found a gun magazine and nearby 4 spent bullet casings and a live bullet. Officer Candelaria labeled both Batista and Catania as victim/suspect in his report. In his report taking out charges 3 days later, Lieutenant David Doherty identified Batista as the victim and Catania as the suspect. Catania was charged with armed assault with intent to murder, among other charges, and held pending a dangerousness hearing. At the dangerousness hearing, Mr. Catania's lawyer, Michael G. Cashman, noted police never took an official statement from Mr. Batista. Over the objection of a prosecutor, Mr. Cashman brought to the stand Officer Candelaria, who disclosed that Batista had been sent home in a cab by Officer Duffy. That fact is not in any of the police reports associated with the charges. The reports just say he could not be located. Mr. Cashman said he didn't know what happened between Officer Duffy and Batista, but that it, quote, doesn't sound right. After the dangerousness hearing, police obtained video of the area they said appeared to show Mr. Batista with a gun in his hand in the carport where the casings and gun was found. Police found the gun on top of the carport. It appears to have been thrown there before Mr. Batista encountered Officer Duffy. Video shows Mr. Batista being encountered by Officer Duffy. He is searched, and at some point off the video, sent home in a cab. Mr. Batista is the brother of gang officer Neftali Batista. Officer Duffy was in the gang unit as well. Batista was charged with the shooting following the recovery of the video. A warrant issued for him was returned as undeliverable to the court. Mr. Batista was arraigned about a year after the arrest warrant was issued. He is awaiting trial after being indicted into Worcester Superior Court.
So, if you're a resident of the city and or a city
Nothing to see
councilor,
here.
yeah, or you're a city councilor who is horrified by one of your constituents being snatched off the street, and you touch an officer allegedly. If you touch an officer, if you touch them at all, that's a felony. Felony for touching. Like if you touch them on the shoulder, felony. But if you're in the Worcester Police Department gang unit, you can aid and abet a person under being detained as a suspect or a witness in a crime. You can aid and abet their escape from the crime scene because, well, he's the brother of your unit mate, and so that's perfectly fine. Welcome to Worcester. Welcome to Worcester.
Yeah,
this is Worcester.
now
That's Worcester.
So I have a question to the police department who released this statement. That guy who you see in the video right there, and then you see what he did. That guy's the president of the union that you're defending.
No, to the question from the chat, was Duffy not on duty? No, he was sitting in a bar at 2 a.m. on Water Street, and shots were fired outside, so he went outside. He was not on duty. He was not assigned to the case. He just, he was around. And, it was his buddy's brother, so it's okay to just cut him loose from the crime scene.
Now,
but that's okay. That's okay if you're in the government class.
Now let's talk about
I just want one more thing. I just want to quote Counselor Toomey from a few meetings ago with a hot mic. Are you hearing this?
I hear it. So here's the best thing. So the chat is responding right now with exactly what I want to hear. He was
not on the job.
President.
He was off duty. He was not drinking on the job.
He was elected president of the Patrolmen's Union after that.
Oh, well after that.
Well, years after this. So there's never been a retraction. There's never been an admission. There's never been any documentation of a statement from Mr. Duffy. Never, not once, has this incident been investigated. Now, we heard from Chief Saucier, his thought process on incidents like this. It was years ago.
Yep.
So
we should just don't mind that he blatantly committed a felony in 2016. He's fine.
Yeah, but Tom, it was years ago. So I mean, we don't need to look into that. And then we're supposed to take that dude's word for it.
Yep.
That's the guy we're supposed to believe isn't screaming and yelling at people.
And if I don't call him a hero, well, I'm anti-cop and pro-crime.
That's what we're saying that guy, we're criticizing that guy, and people are saying we're anti-cop. That's what's going down. And so it's just, I mean, it's not funny. It's really serious, but I can't help but respond with laughter at the people questioning our story, which was about very, very similar, not as dangerous behavior as this covering up a potential attempted murder. Like, I mean, what's going on? No. So hold on. Don't even put that on the screen. But I just want to say this: the people who defend the police will always defend the police till the ends of the earth. Tommy, we could put every single piece of evidence. the person didn't even watch the video. They didn't listen to what the narrator said. They didn't hear that the guy got charged and indicted from the investigation that the Telegram and Gazette led at the time. And by the way, if you really want to go into it, we could look at the reporters who were involved in the Telegram and Gazette and what at that time with that story and what's happened to those men and women on that case. If you really want to dig into it, we can show you a pattern of destruction that specific investigation has led to, where people were attacked, their careers were ruined, they were just constantly gone after in the wake of that report, which was that there was an officer who hid another person who was related to one of his buddies' attempted murder charge. That's what he did. That's what had happened. That's what we saw. And so you can't get away from it. You can't tell us what we see with our own eyes isn't true. And that's just the video that Tom showed you. That case is so detailed. Go look it up. It's public records, and you can see what it is. But you're intentionally denying the evidence that is clear in front of you.
Well, and let's so this was in the Telegram. It was really about a story about Hector Pinheiro, who everybody in the police department has a canned speech about how evil this man is. Yep. He sent a massive file to the Worcester County District Attorney, who of course did nothing with it, because, well, it's obvious he has an incentive to not. He needs cases and he needs good evidence so he can keep his conviction rate up, because that's all he cares about, besides stealing money through civil asset seizures. But I just want to, so from the article about this in the Telegram, it's really about Pinheiro's file that he sent to the DA. Good, looks like it's big. Police said in a statement, as a result of Ms. Pinheiro's letter, an internal affairs investigation has been opened into the case. They said 2 other investigations were opened as a result of the letter, and that 9 investigations related to the complaint therein had already been completed prior to the letter's receipt. Where have we heard that before? Oh, we already did all this.
Read that last sentence, Tommy.
They did not share the results of those investigations.
All right. So one of the things that we've been asking about is what, Tom? The history of BOP's investigations in the city of Worcester. So right now, the process is we have to ask for a specific officer to be able to, look at those things. And Tom and I and other people here in the media have asked for an overall thing. And you know what the city has done? What has the city done, Tom, in relation to those that specific request? They've refused to give it.
Okay, I don't know what we're talking about, but okay.
BOPS, the overall, they won't release all of the things that BOPS has done at once. They make you go through individual officers one at a time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to go through and you got to know the case, like know some details about it, know who's involved, and then you can get the report. And I just want to point out that so this article that brought this forward was to August 8, 2018, and that incident happened in 2016. So we can go to Officer Duffy's what they call the weird. It didn't change. I'm not so great with the screenshot stuff. So we can go to Officer Duffy's what they call his officer information card, right? And this is all the complaints that have been investigated by the Bureau of Professional Acquittals. I mean, standards against Officer Duffy in his, as he said, in December, 27 years. He has 26 cases in 27 years. So
that's one a year.
They don't happen one a year, of course. These things tend to, at least the ones I've seen, they're erratic when these complaints come up and are investigated. But on average, he's a little less than one a year. Compared to the ones that I've seen, that's otherworldly. That is preposterously huge. But if we look at this period between 2016, we're going to scroll a long way to get there. 2016, so there's nothing in 2016, right? And it's hard to determine. See, like the ones that have names of the complaints on them, these would be like cases that became public in some way, usually lawsuits. What happened with the lawsuits irrelevant. Once it's public, they will include the name because that's been publicly announced. The others don't, that haven't been public, they won't, obviously for privacy reasons, won't release the name of the complainant. That's all, complying with the law. But 2016, nothing. 2017, awareness of it. I mean, it's hard because some of these charges are so ridiculous. This doesn't seem like it would be it. And if you get to 2018, it's just cases that we know they are, and this ain't it. So despite what they said, it's hard to say that they investigated it because it doesn't look like they did. Maybe I guess I don't know what the charge would be based on, like the discipline. I guess it would be like reports or something. I don't know. He was off duty. Like it doesn't appear that it was investigated at all, which is not surprising at all.
If you want to bring once you come back to the regular screen,
yeah.
So Tom and I, just so you guys know, to get an idea of how far we go down this, we have reached out. If you saw, there was some names not blacked out on the list. Those were people who filed lawsuits against this particular office, against the city on the office's behavior.
But some of those, I mean, I wouldn't judge anything by that. Some of those, they're filed and then nothing ever happens ever again.
Right. But what I want to say is that universally, when I reach out to people related to this, people are afraid.
Yes.
People are actually afraid of this man. And that's the same thing we reported over the weekend. That's all we reported. The same thing. So we're talking deputy chiefs, we're talking captains, uniformed officers, retired officers, citizen complaints, people who have filed lawsuits, attorneys that represent them. Consistently, this officer causes fear in the hearts and the minds of people that interact with him. That is a consistent thing.
Yes. I have received so many messages from people in the last 2 days. Be careful. And that's, welcome to Worcester.
Before you move on, is an officer supposed to cause fear in people?
Oh, no.
Is that is that a part of police? What is he, Batman? Batman causes fear, right? I mean, right? Is that right?
And I do want to address Ed. Ed. Who am I talking about? Freddie, who says cops will always be accused. If you look into that came to light. I think I even said it in the video. It came to light in court. A Worcester police officer was under oath and revealed that Duffy put that person in a cab. So I would just like to ask Counselor Toomey again, which Worcester police officer is lying?
The one who she's going to say the one who admitted that he put him into the cab. That's what she would say.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, is it even like I don't know. Like, I mean, we won't ever get an answer, of course,
right?
Because God forbid our public representation actually answers questions. God knows the city manager never will. But I mean, Worcester police officers don't lie. What are you, crazy? Are you hearing this?
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not easy to do so. Because that's just, you know what? It is pointless to even engage because you're just never ever.
So Freddie thinks that the officer that was under oath was lying. He said Freddie thinks the Worcester police officer was lying under
pretty
oath.
much.
His
pretty much. That's what he's saying. And then the same thing that the police department said is that through us, a deputy chief and a captain and 41 other officers are also lying.
Yes, it's a conspiracy, just like the DOJ report.
Massive. By the way, and apparently you and I, Tom, have the ability to create massive conspiracies all the way up to the Department of Justice. You and I have this ability to do so, and we've been doing it now for how long? For a year and a...
Wait! It is you and I and one Harvard intern.
That's right. It's an intern. You and me are completely casting all of these. We just made all this stuff up. It's just we got Merrick Garland to hold the report. I mean, there's so many things.
Yep. Me and Merrick were like this.
It's amazing how much power we have.
So let's
By the
talk
way,
about.
our salaries are not reflective of the power that we have.
No,
Apparently,
they are not. They are absolutely not. Merrick's my boy, though. I had him put that hold on for me. Let's talk
he
about.
took care of business.
Let's talk about Pastor Rizzuti. Pastor Rizzuti, as many of you may know, had a church on 78 Waverly Street, and in 2020, and well, you've all seen the video, but we're gonna watch it again. But we're gonna watch it looking for different information, right? So the officer that primarily engaged in that situation is Michael Capabianca. Hey, if I can be a liar, I'm done hiding names. Keep running your mouth. Let's take a look at what the internal investigation report found, because that's very credible.
I know Leanne's loving this sharing screen stuff that you're doing here.
Yeah. Upon arriving, Capabianca observed Officer Nunez trying to speak to a female party. A male who was later identified as Joseph Rizzuti Sr. was interfering and not allowing Nunez to speak to the female. It's his daughter. When Mr. Rizzuti began shouting at Officer Nunez, Capabianca advised him to quiet down and go back inside the church if he was going to continue yelling. He also noticed that Mr. Rizzuti's shouting was attracting the attention of residents in the area. He advised Mr. Rizzuti that his yelling was disturbing the peace and suggested that he go inside or would be arrested. Rizzuti Sr. refused and continued shouting, now calling Capabianca a tyrant. Capabianca stated that it was clear to him Rizzuti Sr. was not going to quiet down or go back inside the church. It was then that Capabianca decided to arrest Mr. Rizzuti for disturbing peace, and as he went to place him under arrest, Mr. Rizzuti fled into the church, and Capabianca chased after him. So he did exactly what he wanted him to do, go into the church. Okay. Now, I just point out, Rizzuti was interfering and not allowing Nunez to speak to a female, and then was shouting at Nunez.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's watch the video with new eyes, folks.
We have a video.
Because the officers were wearing body camera, and so here we go.
Who are you? Who are you? Why don't you go inside? You have nothing involved. Go
Oh,
inside.
that's my daughter. So
Okay.
yeah, I do have a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
You know,
maybe you don't have to.
this has nothing to do with you.
How's that? Tyrant, don't come tell me what I don't do or not do.
You done yelling? You done yelling?
Are you done yet?
Hey, Tom, pause it real
We're
quick.
all set
Pause
here. You
it.
can go inside.
No, you go on.
You're not gonna tell me
Pause
what to
that
do.
for 1 second.
Yep.
Hey, so where's the crowd of people that are gathering? He said that he noticed a crowd of people were gathering. Where's the crowd of people?
Not sure. What's also interesting is that he was interfering with Nunez communicating with his daughter. That was his daughter that just drove away in the SUV.
In the SUV, right?
And they didn't stop her, right? So
No.
obviously she was capable. It was legal for her to drive away because they didn't do anything about it. How was he? He was standing across the street from the situation. How did
That is right.
he interfere with Nunez communicating with her? She was across the street. And the first thing the cop tells him, guy doesn't say anything. Cop says, "Go inside." I did learn from this Bob's video that there is other body camera for this. This was during the trial of the body cameras. So apparently there was another body camera on scene. I just got this report this week. I never asked for it before. So there is another body camera. There's some stuff happened inside the church, but I mean, not really relevant to what happened next, which we've all seen. The guy standing on a public sidewalk. He is a street widths away from the thing that the police are actually doing, and they can't even detain her, apparently, because she drove away. And they didn't do anything about it.
What's he doing wrong right now? All he's doing is he is talking to the officer. He's calling the officer a tyrant. That's what he's doing right now in this moment. So the officer says that he's going to arrest him now, right? That's what the report says.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the reports are relatively, he's calling him a tyrant, and then he says, "I'm going to arrest you for disturbing the peace," because he was talking too loud outside during the day in front of his own place.
During the day. In front of his church.
In front of his church. And if you, I forgot to grab this, but there was a Telegram article 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, about some preliminary arguments in this case, because it's now apparently going to go to trial.
Yeah.
And which is going to work out really well, because lots of people are going to watch this video and say, "Oh, that's what police should be doing." And the new attorney that I don't think they've ever used before, weird, is in court, and he argues that this officer had every right to conduct an arrest for disturbing the peace, and the arguments were actually over. Rizzuto's attorney wanted to introduce the DOJ report as evidence, and the city's attorney, guess what they said? That this report was rushed out before the change of administration.
Which, by the way, Tom and I, in our special conspiracy, we were able to prove that was not true.
Correct.
Because Merrick Garland held the report up for Tom Marino. He paused the report.
My boy Merrick.
It's all connected.
So the lies put out the day the DOJ, before the DOJ report was released, a few hours before, the lies are now being repeated by a different attorney in court, literally lying to a judge. So the administration has their attorney believing their own lies. What happened?
It's great.
And then we could,
Go inside. You're about to be arrested for disturbing the peace.
Here, tyrant. Let's get him. Look at him. Look at this guy. Look at him.
Now, do you hear that? Well, one guy is starting to engage. The other cop's going, "You better keep quiet or you're going to get locked up." They love to do this, is shout separate orders at people so you don't know what the hell's going on.
So, by the way, it's a very short period of time. He says that he told him to go inside in the report and that he kept shouting. But right now, what we're seeing is he just told him to go inside or you get arrested, and then he started rushing at him. That's what we saw. It happened in less than a second. So the report and what we're seeing in the video is completely different than what this officer wrote down. So this officer wrote down a version of the story that was designed to make the officer look as good as possible and this pastor to look as bad as possible. It is a very short period of time. He wasn't screaming. He was calling him a tyrant. He was, but he's not doing it. There's nothing he's doing there that is the basic tenets for what you would consider disturbing the peace. Normally, disturbing the peace is a significant disturbance over a period of time, not a 10-second period.
And so this is their recital of what the officer said. And then, goes through the body camera footage and kind of, it certainly doesn't highlight the differences between the footage and the video, to say the least. But I just wanted to highlight, I wanted to bring this, let's just get to the conclusion, blah, 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 blah.
Wait. Look.
No, we're not going there. We're not going there. But this was the allegation. Now here is awareness of activities, knowledgeability of laws, rules, and regulations. Okay. Just a thought. Maybe I don't know, unreasonable force might have been considered. I don't know. saw the taser lit up on his back, right?
That's called a drive stun.
Yep.
That is not.
They
That is
also
not
said
how
he was
they're
resisting.
trained to do so.
Yeah. So Pastor Rizzuti said in his statement to the police department before he stops cooperating with the investigation. But he said, yes, absolutely, it is in their church, absolutely. And so Pastor Rizzuti said he was laid out prone, while the officer said that he was resisting arrest because he was holding his hands. He's sitting on his arms, like he's laying on his arms. I don't think either one of those statements are really correct, but to call that resisting while you're getting drive stunned in the back. But again, this is exactly what people like Duffy are afraid of, is that this system that allows this bullshit to go on, and they wash it away. Nothing to see here. This kind of death just goes away. Scared to death.
And I mean, again, you know, what we're talking about for, is really about how do we want to be as a nation, as a state, as a city? Like, how do we want to be? What do you want to be? It doesn't matter what creed or color or background you are. There is still a tone of how we should approach each other in society, right? Now, in this case, you had an officer who's clearly disturbed behave in a way with authority and weaponry that doesn't reflect, in my opinion, and maybe other people who are watching the show can give me a different opinion, that's not what we want to show to the world. And this kind of stuff right there, if you take the last few months, is what we're showing to the world now every day. Every day somewhere in America, we're seeing this kind of aggressive policing being used on the most vulnerable people. And so I get it. If someone commits a crime, there's usually a consequence for a crime. I know more than maybe anybody here who watches the show what that is like, right? I committed crimes when I was younger, and I was punished for those crimes. If you've been a long time watcher of the show, you know that unlike the people who hate Tom and I've actually admitted those things, and I took responsibility for what I did, and I served my time, and I deserved it. There's no getting around that. But that guy is not me. When I was younger, that what he did was not a crime that deserves physical restraint and abuse. What you saw the officer make the decision to drive stun him in the back while a child was within 3 to 4 feet of him is not how humans should treat each other. It just isn't. And so, you can read the full report for yourselves. These are things that are available. You could go, found it was from the police officer's body cam, Tom.
Nobody disputes that. Like the police department does not dispute that this is the video. Like,
the police don't dispute it, Fred. He's just being what he's doing? He's just being he just is being oppositional on purpose. Like, he's doing it on purpose now just to get responses from people, and you should just ignore it, realistically, because he's not really participating fairly in the conversation. But the point is this: how do you want to be treated? I hate to go biblical on everybody, but the thing is that you should treat others how you would want to be treated. And this officer clearly is not treating this person, who happens to be a pastor, how you would want to be treated, right? And say what you want about the pastor and what he said, whether he should be engaging with the officers or not, whatever. That level of disrespect is not commiserate with being tackled, and treated that way in front of his family, in front of his church. It's just unnecessary.
I think that there's a more basic point that is very clearly protected speech.
100%. Yeah, he has the right to say what he wants. Just as we've said here in the city of Worcester, there's currently an unconstitutional ban on profanity inside City Hall. If someone wants to get up and tell the mayor to go F himself, he has the right to do so. Now, we can, as society, say, hey, we don't like that. But the rights that we've been afforded by the rules, the governing document that we say we believe in, would say is that you would have the right to do that. So that would afford this pastor the right to call this officer a tyrant. And so the officer clearly felt so much that he had to write a report differently than the actual facts.
And so if the officer is really concerned about the peace being disturbed,
yeah,
why do we have this moment? I'm just wondering. See, he's literally walking to his service vehicle.
Yes.
The guy is upset because of the officer and how the officer treated him. So if the officer removes him from the scene, isn't it kind of common sense that the disturbance will end because the problem the guy has is the police officer? Does that make sense? But why would we de-escalate? But that would be de-escalation. Why would we de-escalate? Because as the officer says, you're not going to tell me what to do. And that's
Right.
what's important.
Yeah. It was about power. And again, it's interesting because the psychology, remember when the big argument about the body cameras was taking place, some of the opponents of the body cameras had proposed this idea that officers would behave differently while wearing a body camera. Turns out that's not true. What happens is that you get used to wearing it, and as it documents you just act how you act. And this officer clearly acts how he acted. Now, I'm not saying that this officer does it every single day, but in this particular case, he did not use this supposed de-escalation training. This is not a long ago incident, folks. This is a recent incident that, kind of really shows, well, I don't mean recent like last week, but it's not, it wasn't in 2017.
No.
Right? Which apparently, by the way, any officer who's committed any crime prior to 2017 is apparently absolved for life, according to Chief Saucier. You can't commit any crimes. We can't go back in time and look up for those things. So if any of you got away with murder, I guess you're going to get away with murder, according to the current chief of police. So the thought process really comes down to, again, it's I'm sorry to repeat it, but it's about how do we want to treat people, and do we want our officers acting like this towards anybody, not just the pastor, by the way, but anybody? How is this how we want it? And part of the reason this is even a story, Tom, realistically, is because he's a pastor, right? This happens to kids all the time. This happens to young, children of color on a regular basis. They have this attitude that they're approached with that we don't have documented. Because, by the way, these are just when something escalates to an arrest. We don't get all the information about attitudes and being pissed off and being angry all the time and acting like tough guys all the time that we got in this report that led to us being called liars, right?
Yep.
Which is, those are undocumented incidents. And we're saying that this is why you need true, real oversight that's independent, that is willing to go through these things. To refute Councilor Bergman, the Post Commission has found. I have a question. Has the Post Commission found anything wrong with this officer's response, Tom?
Well, this is before. I think this is before the date, so it wouldn't be eligible to be reviewed.
So it's not even eligible to be reviewed. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also no statute of limitations on accessory after the fact, or aiding and abetting, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's get to the headline of the week before the police department made us the headline of the week. Is the Nakasenza case.
Yeah.
And it starts in a weird place. I'm going to start it in a weird place. You guys remember this, right? Bad confession case in 2008. I think they scheduled it in. They settled it in 2014 or 15. They paid $2.1 million. This girl She was 16 at the time. Her child died in its crib. And these two officers, it's hard to see here, but Kevin Paggio and Detective John Doherty conducted what a judge later determined was a coerced interrogation, coerced confession. And threw the confession out, and that's of course all they had. So then this girl, after spending almost, I think it was almost 3 years in, awaiting trial, was then just let out and sued, got 2.1. And so we're not going to talk about this. This is so well covered. If you want to know more about this, Anatomy of Bad Confessions, a series by the now retired David Bowery. It is an absolutely excellent piece of journalism. But so remember, Kevin Paggio and John Doherty were the partners on this very controversial case that cost the city over $2 million. The Bops report. Now, when Cosenza filed his lawsuit against the city, if you don't remember, Cosenza was in jail for 16 years before his conviction was overturned on error by the trial judge in the criminal trial. But then he sued, and that civil jury found some things. So there's only one thing to point out here, because then you can throw the rest of it away. Okay. So the two officers being investigated here are, in the Cosenza case, are Carrie Hazelhurst and John Doherty. John Doherty being one of the same cops in that last case, the bad interrogation. Can you imagine if there's one person in the world who should not be assigned to investigate this internally at the police department? Who do you think that would be? Would it be the other guy, Kevin Paggio, the other guy in the last case? Lo and behold, because there's a lot of integrity at the Worcester Police Department, who's assigned to investigate that? Yes, that's right, Sergeant Kevin Paggio. So whatever this says is worthless, because there's an inherent conflict of interest. They cop crime together in the past. It's stunning how stupid it is. Stunning.
No one thought about it.
And this is their findings on the Cosenza case. Those two cops did nothing wrong because Kevin Paggio said so. Kevin Paggio, now retired, gets to collect a pension for the rest of his life for being a scumbag. But let's talk about the Cosenza case.
Hey, how much did they have to pay out in the young girl's case there?
Oh, that was 2.1.
2.1 million.
2014, I think they settled that.
No big deal. 2.1 million. No big deal. Just taxpayers' dollars. No. Doesn't. No big deal.
So here we are. The city has settled with Cosenza. Let's take a look at the details.
There's been a settlement. Oh, that's great.
It has. Let's take a look at the details. So this is just. I just want to point this out that case went to trial, civil trial. The city of Worcester got itself removed from the case, so it was just these two cops, Hazelhurst and Doherty, and the jury awarded $8 million to Cosenza. Of course, these two cops don't have $8 million, and the city's not a part of the case. So, and this is also interesting. Whereas, and I'm going to read this part. Whereas the officers, that's not Cosenza, that's the two officers we're talking about. The officers, by and through their counsel, made demand against the city and alleged, among other things, that the city of Worcester committed legal malpractice in defending the officers in litigation. So what they did was they fired the city's attorneys that had represented them through the whole case and got their own attorneys and cut a deal with Cosenza. And they assigned Cosenza basically their rights under the malpractice claim. Because they don't have his $8 million, right? And so the city then was finally motivated to settle. And here's what they settled for. $2 million.
$2 million.
The $8 million is $500,000 a year. That's, seems to be what a lot of these wrongful incarceration cases have settled around, $500,000. I mean, you're in prison, probably worth $500,000 when you didn't do anything. Apparently, our city manager thinks that your liberty is only worth less than half what he makes a year. Kerry Hazelhurst, his base salary is $121,000. he made in 2024 over 200,000. So they still give this unrepentant piece of shit details. He will retire as a Worcester police officer because we have such leadership in our city. And I just wanted to point out something on. So Cosenza appealed the decision to remove the city from the case. After the case was over, he appealed. And the decision by the judge says some interesting things. Cosenza lost, by the way. But it says, I just screwed that all up. Hold on. I was trying to zoom in and it went haywire. On policy, here's an interesting thing. Worcester had no written policies of its own specifically related to the administration of photo arrays, which was one of the issues in this case. Worcester relied on preferred practices. That actually worked in its favor because there was no policy to violate, you see. So the city can't be responsible for their policy being violated if they don't have one. So when you hear all about all these policies being written now, this is why, because this has been the strategy for decades. But the interesting thing comes here. Cosenza also argues that Worcester is liable on similar theories for its officers' alleged fabrication and suppression of evidence. We agree with the district court that Cosenza has not identified any record evidence that Worcester had an express policy that caused its officers to fabricate or suppress evidence or failed to train its officers in that regard. So it didn't what this is saying is because it didn't teach them to do the things they did, the city's not responsible. Seems like a seems reasonable, right? In some ways. But the Bob's report already said that they did nothing wrong. And that's the position the city takes, including the city manager. So here is, and I don't know why it doesn't change when I change the screen, but it doesn't. So we're doing this annoying flipping back and forth thing.
People like to see your face, though. So
here is the jury verdict form from the trial. Do you find that plaintiff Natalia Cosenza has proven by a preponderance of evidence that Kerry Hazelhurst suppressed evidence? Yes. Do you find by a preponderance of evidence that evidence was exculpatory or impeaching and that it was material? Yes. Do you find that by a preponderance of evidence Kerry Hazelhurst's suppression of evidence caused plaintiff Natalia Cosenza to be wrongfully convicted? Yes. They cleared Doherty of suppressing evidence. So if there's a no, you don't answer the rest of the questions. And then do you find defendant Kerry Hazelhurst knowingly fabricated evidence? Yes. Last question. That his fabrication of evidence caused plaintiff Natalia Cosenza to be wrongfully convicted? Yes. Same thing for Doherty. They cleared Doherty of that, and then they got them both. They held them both responsible for suppressing and fabricating, conspiring to suppress and fabricate evidence. So they conspired to do it, but Doherty didn't actually do it, is what they found.
Right. So Hazelhurst made stuff up. Doherty helped him cover that up.
Correct. But the position of the city of Worcester is that these officers did nothing wrong.
And by the way, then Doherty's former partner Paggio helped him cover that up. Step by step by step. Here
we are. This is the decision. This is where we get to some actual facts. And there's so many screwed up things in this case that we'd be here for a year covering them all. I'm going to cover every single one of them, by the way. I'll just do it in writing. At trial, plaintiff Cosenza, the redactions I did because the victim of this crime's name is in this document, and we don't do that. Because this is straight from the courts, so her name isn't redacted in the actual court document. At trial, plaintiff argued that the additional details in the post-array witness statement, this is the statement after they did a photo array, okay? They showed a series of photos, whatever. Cosenza's identified. Argued additional details in the post-array witness statement, along with the victim professed lack of knowledge as to who Cosenza or the person knocking on the door was. So Nat had gone around and knocked on some doors previously asking for money. You know, he was, it says in other documents, he, you know, had a drug problem at the time. You can have a drug problem and not attempt to break into somebody's house and hurt them. So demonstrated that Hazelhurst provided the victim with that information after her identification, thus bolstering the identification by imputing to Cosenza a criminal or least unsavory nature. So after she identified him in the picture, this Hazelhurst told her a bunch of negative things about Cosenza, including that he lived in the building or lived in the same complex in a different building. The jury wasn't reasonable in inferring that Hazelhurst bolstered identification by giving her negative information about Cosenza. Having found the bolstering occurred, it was necessarily suppressed because Hazelhurst never notified the prosecutor. The city of Worcester says he did nothing wrong. Skipping forward a little bit, regardless of the theory, the value of the inculpatory evidence, that means stuff that makes you, you know, shows that you're guilty. Exculpatory means it shows you're innocent. Inculpatory evidence the Commonwealth had at the criminal trial would have decreased, and the civil jury was reasonable in finding that the criminal jury would not have found beyond a reasonable doubt that Cosenza was guilty. As to deliberate deception, are you listening, Kate, to me? As to deliberate deception, when asked at the criminal trial whether he fed the victim negative information about Cosenza, Hazelhurst testified, "I doubt it. I don't think so." He also testified he understood bolstering was improper and that he conducted all his photo arrays the same. Because the jury found Hazelhurst bolstered the identification, his denial at the criminal trial meets the Haley standard for deliberate deception. A jury could infer Hazelhurst knew the bolstering was exculpatory and important to the case, and deceived the court that it was not a memory lapse. The city of Worcester's perspective is he did nothing wrong. And it goes on and on. Hazelhurst testified that he was in the bedroom. So here's the thing. This whole case turns on these pair of shorts that was found well after the crime was committed. And they don't belong to anybody associated with the victim. There's a whole story behind that, but skipping ahead. They don't belong to anybody associated with the victim. And so that's what this is referring to, is the search of the crime scene at the time. At the criminal trial, Hazelhurst testified that he was in the bedroom on August 16, 2000, date of the crime. He was looking to see if anything was out of place, especially a pair of men's shorts or pants, in quotes, and that he, quote, did not see those gym shorts, end quote. At the civil trial, he testified he did a cursory search, that he was just looking around, and that he relied on earlier Bureau of Criminal Identification, a unit, search to identify anything noteworthy. But the BCI investigator who processed the scene testified that she did not process any that sort of evidence. She took fingerprints and photographs. The jury could have inferred, given his experience, that Hazelhurst knew BCI did not collect shorts or pants. In addition, Hazelhurst did not document the search contemporaneously, and Doherty testified that Hazelhurst was concerned when the DNA test came back negative. The jury was reasonable in finding that Hazelhurst fabricated his testimony about searching for the shorts. See, because what he testified in court in the criminal trial was those shorts weren't there when he searched after the crime, so they can't be relevant. And they had DNA in them that does not back anybody, including Nat, the person who was incarcerated for 16 years. But the city of Worcester says that this police officer did nothing wrong. Jury was reasonable in finding that the fabricated testimony caused Cosenza's incarceration, wrongful incarceration. That had Hazelhurst not testified that he looked for the shorts or pants on August 16, 2000, the criminal jury would have considered shorts at the scene of the crime with DNA tests that did not match Cosenza. Testimony from the victim that her family members did not recognize the shorts, and testimony from her nephew that no one entered her bedroom while she was away. After the crime, she stayed elsewhere, and her nephew and some other people stayed at her house. So she didn't want to be there because of this crime. Commonwealth still could have argued that the shorts belonged to one of his other guests, but Hazelhurst's testimony was important enough that the Commonwealth referred to it to discredit the shorts' importance in their closing arguments at the criminal trial. So his bullshit is what the DA argued, is based on his bullshit, is what the DA argued at the closing. But this officer did nothing wrong, according to the city of Worcester. At this trial, Hazelhurst testified that absent his search, the shorts were about as close to exoneration as you can get. Yet I read some of the transcript excerpts. The last question that Cosenza's lawyers asked him when he was on the stand was, "Do you regret anything that you did in this case?" And his response was, "Absolutely not." And they put this guy out on details. And if something happens around that detail, he can come arrest you. This guy. And they're harboring the criminal inside the Worcester Police Department. But we're the liars.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're watching the show and you're following along with this, we are bringing not only testimonial evidence, but we're bringing factual evidence, video evidence, documentary evidence, and multiple courts, different jurisdictions that are agreeing with what we're saying. So, it's hard to listen to someone defend this behavior as reasonable or even normal, particularly when we're talking to officers, 43 officers since Thursday, that are saying that what we're saying is true, confirming it, and rejecting this behavior. That Tom just laid out a case. And by the way, he's only giving you part of it. That's from a decision, a thoroughly vetted and documented decision from a judge who determined, based on all of these facts, not just the little parts that Tom just laid out, the entirety of the case, an officer who faked evidence and put a man in prison for more than 15 years. And that officer is still allowed to be an officer. That is, and the police department and the city of Worcester defend the behavior of this officer with their statements publicly. And that's what we're dealing with. Again,
I just want to add context here. This is the trial judge, but this was the city's appeal or the officer's appeal to try and get the jury verdict thrown out. And the judge absolutely dismembers their motion.
And by the way, Tom's going to cover this in detail in his. So remember what I say every week now. Read the stories, share the stories, talk about the stories. They're important for us, and they're important for independent journalism in the city of Worcester. If you want more people to be able to be honest and free and discuss things, you should be following along and sharing these things. You got to do the same thing, with Manny's shows, with the movie stuff. Follow along, share our stuff to help us grow. We need your help. We need you to share it. We need you to, tell your friends about it, because this is independent journalism at its best. It's done with zero budget, and we're splitting zero budget.
I have a final point to make on this.
Yeah.
I've heard so many times this year from various different people, counselors included. You don't think anything's going to happen this year? It's an election year. This has been going on forever.
Yeah,
This has been going on. This type of bullshit's been going on for as long as everybody's been there, including the mayor, who's been there since Moses saw him in.
Yes.
And this all predates them, right?
Yeah.
It's not any one person's fault, but this is the culture of city government.
Yes.
And if you think this is okay, get out of public life.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't be a part of public life if you think it's okay to do this.
But let's be really clear about what that statement actually means. You don't think anything's going to happen. It's an election year. It means that you're willing to put this stuff on hold for your, if you're, and if you believe this idea that, it's election year, I can't do anything. This is what I mean. If you're a counselor and you don't think you can do anything as an election year, like, for example, if the chief is in front of you over two meetings for an hour and you don't say a word, not a word, that's putting your personal political ambition, your own personal interests, over your duty, your oath, your responsibility. We have a word for that in the English language. That's called corruption.
It is. I mean, to defend your part-time job.
Right.
To defend your part-time job.
If you fix this police department, we'll build statues to you.
Yes.
You will be a legend.
Some of the things that we've seen, over the past, couple years in particular, and again, this is repeated. I know that there's lots of people, there's lots of people in our chat that, ask these things. They've been saying this for years, and yes, we get that. We know all that. We know it's been going on for decades and decades and decades. But if you just take the recent sample of this council term, just this council term, there's been some very specific situations where the councilors or the mayor or the manager could have just done the basic, hey, we're gonna look into this. Just a little bit of basic public relations, and we would not have as much rancor in city government. We would not have as much passion. You wouldn't have as much going on. You just wouldn't, because they have done this repeatedly, step after step after step, while blaming the minority on the council for doing it, right?
Yep.
So they refuse to have any accountability. They refuse to acknowledge there's a problem. They refuse to say sorry for anything when evidence is revealed that they did do something wrong, like just now. And then they blame 3 counselors for everything.
For everything. And
that is what we've been watching this term. And that is that's why there has to be change. I'm not pontificating for any particular brand of change. Sometimes there needs to be change for the sake of change, and at the base, that's what we need in the city of Worcester.
Well, so yes, I mean, that's fair. I would say this appeal is to the people that are there now, regardless of what happens at the election. You've got 5 months before that, a little bit less.
Yeah.
Get to work. What happened to all that? On December 17th, we heard roll up your sleeves a bunch of times. We're going to roll up our sleeves and get to work. Heads are going to roll. Where are they?
Yeah, they're not rolling. They're not rolling.
No.
They're just going to, so on Tuesday, people are going to go, they're going to talk about the budget. This stuff is going to go right out the window again. And here's the thing. I want to say this to the people who are voters. This is your fault. You got to respond too, man, because it can't just be, the local independent media, which I think is continuing to grow and do great things here. It can't just be, it has to be coupled to a movement of thousands of people who have never voted before, who complain a lot online, especially on Facebook. You got to go and you got to vote, and you have to vote your conscience. And you need to vote for the things that you need to vote for. If you really, truly want Worcester's government to be different and for there to be a different approach, you have to get involved, and you have to do what you have to do. So register to vote, get involved, because you just don't vote enough. And so it really comes down to participating. Participation is important.
So I'm going to take a different approach on that. Yeah, I mean, look, obviously voters hold responsibility in some ways. But, I mean, just this police department alone has been how it is forever. I'm not saying
Sure.
it hasn't changed. It hasn't improved at all. I'm not saying, and nothing's a zero-sum game. But I mean, the police department being problematic is decades long. Decades.
Sure. I said that at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of played around with some language that's, it never recovered from the, mob-run city days, which we were at one point, largely mob-run. And that's a very long time ago, very, very long time. But like but the problem is, you see, is I don't know how. I mean, it amazes me how owned by police unions some of our counselors are. They just won't do anything. They all know it's a problem. Okay, let's be honest. Not stupid people. I don't think that at all. That's for sure. They know it's a problem. It's not a problem that affects them, but it would affect them if they opened their mouth because the unions would turn on them. I mean, and then you got, Tom Duffy running around screaming at you. You got Kerry Hazelhurst trying to, screw with evidence to get you convicted of something. I mean,
and
this is acceptable to you?
Yeah, we had people on
not do anything because it's an election year.
Yeah, I've had people on the phone, including city councilors, worried for you and I that there might be some retaliation, and the things that they bring up are, "Hey, be careful, you might get something planted on you. Hey, be careful, they might try to pin a case on you." That's the response of sitting city councilors to us, and and by the way, a couple of those in the majority. I'm not, I don't just talk. It's interesting. People think that Tom and I only talk to one group. We talk to everybody. Sometimes those conversations are positive. Sometimes they're not. But I
have said that I maybe get along better with people that are not politically aligned with me on council. I mean, I do. I mean, I guess maybe I'm a sucker, and if you talk to me, I'll find a way to like you. And I fully recognize that might be in my subconsciously in my personal interest. I need, it's good that these people talk to me, right? I have not excluded, potential bias here, but I do. I get along with people that I don't politically align with on council quite well. Yeah. But I mean, I know. I think it was. I know it was Councilor Bergman. Maybe it was Councilor Colorio as well. They had an order earlier this year, maybe last year. They wanted information about a proposed state bill that's probably not going anywhere, but a state bill that would raise the age for which you were still charged as a juvenile for most crimes except capital crimes, murder, and such.
Yeah.
And Councilor Bergman, and I apologize if I have this wrong. I think it was Councilor Colorio as well signed on to that. Wanted more information, and their primary concern was people getting lighter sentences for gun crimes. You have a Worcester cop who helped the guy escape from the scene of a gun crime. You should be concerned about that.
I don't think that he is, and I understand what you're saying. It's just, again, it doesn't matter what we're saying. It doesn't matter how many facts we bring. It doesn't matter if we listen, if every phone call that I got in from these different people, if I recorded them and played the audio, Tom, or if I had it on video, or if we did a live show with like a shrouded person, right? And it was like a shrouded person, and it said, deputy chief, anonymous deputy chief. If we did all that stuff, they still wouldn't believe us because they are the worst, in my opinion. This is my opinion now. This is not necessarily Tom's opinion. I have this theory that I call the true believer theory. They truly believe at the top of the union, at the leadership level, in the police department, in the city administration, in the city council, there was a universal belief that they know best, that these things are things those are just it's just part of doing business, and that they have handled it the best they can. They have no ability to self-analyze. They have no recognition about how much and how upset people truly are. And they don't recognize the despair in their own city, which leads to some of the people not wanting to vote. So they completely base their opinions on a small minority of people who do vote, and they win that minority. They win the most of the minority of votes, right? It's like you win the most of the least amount. And you think that that is representative of the city's true feelings about the situation. And so again, that thought process is illogical. If you watch this episode, go back after the live is over and watch this episode from beginning to end. We have documented in detail, again, testimonial evidence, documentary evidence, video evidence of a dishonest series of steps by a small group of officers. We're not saying the whole police department. Again, we've never said that. I am for good cops. I'm against bad cops. And several of the people in leadership are bad. It is what it is, and they have been bad. And we've just led you down a path to show you that behavior. That my opinion, if you agree with me, you don't have to. Officers should be held to a higher standard of behavior. They should be, because they represent law and order, or whatever you want to call it. To do that, to have that authority, you should be behaving better than what we've shown tonight. And so this is just the beginning of what's going to happen this year. We are going to do a series of stories that are going to, and it's not just about the police, by the way. That's the other thing too. This is a citywide issue that we're going to be focusing on and digging in, because this is all we can do. I can't cover LA. I can't cover New York City. I can't. But you know what I can do? I can cover Great Brook Valley. And I can dig in to the details of the neighborhoods, and that's where we should focus our efforts on. The best thing that we can do is the neighborhood around us, and that's all we're saying. And I know right now that there's oppositional thoughts watching our show right now. I see officers, I see city councilors sitting in there, and they're watching us, and they're probably upset. And the thing is that not only did we tell the truth, but we have more that's coming. And it doesn't look good for the folks who think that they're going to get away with it. Videos, audio recordings, pictures, papers, documents. If we get it, we're going to publish it. And so just be prepared, and start taking inventory of yourself about where you're at and what you're doing, and whether or not the things that you're doing or the people around you are right. Because we really should be bringing to the surface the truth about our city. So
and I think probably the last thing is, let's be really clear the cynical game that the majority of the city council is playing with this community. The city manager has farmed out the creation of a report on civilian review boards to the Worcester Regional Research Bureau. I think the Research Bureau is great. They've done some stuff. If city councilors and people in city government had read their report on pattern and practice investigations, they might have understood anything about it, because they don't. So I get no problem with the Research Bureau, but it's just a fact. The Research Bureau just was the primary sponsor of the city manager's say nothing speech. And it don't look good. Just doesn't look good. That's what we're doing here. And, much respect to the folks. I know a lot of folks in our community have been fighting for a civilian review board for a long time. So I say, with all due respect, they don't work. They don't work. They typically create reports. Even if they have subpoena power, it doesn't really matter like the veracity of the investigation. The bottom line is they write reports, they go to the chief throws them in the trash, and we move on. That's what happens in almost all places. They generally don't work. Inspector General, folks, for the city as a whole, who conducts the official investigations of the city, has the ability to put people under oath, and we have clear in ordinance guidelines or consequences for knowingly lying in those investigations. Why is that so difficult? That's just like the criminal process, except nobody's trying to take your goddamn freedom away. Like, all the crying and whining. We're the victims from the police department of the DOJ report. Nobody's trying to throw you in prison, for God's sake.
It is what it is.
But I mean, you can't have a unit inside the department that writes reports like that. They're laughable. And that city councilors and the city manager continue to allow it just really shows how you don't matter to them at all. At all. 16 years in prison, and they don't care that the guy lied 100 times in court. They're going to keep paying him.
I mean, the things that are coming, it's just, it's almost, I mean, again, we even see some of the interactions that are happening in the chats. Like there's a lot of serious things going on, and we need to really, like, we need to clean house with the folks that, are they're just not doing the right thing. And again, remember, I know what I'm saying when I say that, because I did commit crimes when I was a young 20-year-old man, did some rough stuff there, and I went to jail, and I deserved it, and I served my time, and I accepted my punishment. Right now, I don't know that there's really a movement for officers to serve time, and so the only thing that they are being faced with is public scrutiny and some Facebook comments, and the level of screaming, the level of whining that comes from having a couple of passive aggressive Facebook comments thrown your way. Man, you're acting like you guys are being shot from the towers. And so it makes you look worse. I mean, I just look at the response to the post again this week. Tom broke it down, the level of response. But don't just look at the folks that normally watch our show or are in Worcester Political Dialogue or in any particular group. Go look at the folks that are related to the police department who are saying that your credibility is shot. This is not a minority of the city of Worcester. Most people in the city think that the police department is corrupt, and that's just the way it is. Whether you like that or not, whether you accept that or not, is based on your own approach to empirical evidence that's placed before you. And if you refuse to acknowledge the data, you are delusional. That's it. There's really no other way to look at it. And so I'll do my best to talk to you and to show you the evidence and to provide you with testimony. But it's up to you to determine whether you're going to believe what's right in front of you or not. We're not all doubting.
Yeah. And at this point, like, I mean, Judge Hellman, he's only been a federal judge for 100,000 years. And endless people, the endless people in prison that, in investigations that the, Worcester Police Department was unquestionably involved in, at least, if not led, right? But he's obviously part of the conspiracy because he just recited the facts.
I mean, again, Tom, remember, you and I literally apparently control the federal court system, the Department of Justice. We have gotten this level of control that I'm blown away by it. Still haven't been paid commiserate with that control. But I apparently run the Department of Justice, or at least I ran it during the Biden administration. And then I'm also still influencing federal judges and their decisions to be made in the thing, which is amazing that I have that level of power, yet the sources that we have are not telling us the truth. So, somehow I'm able to do this on one hand, but not get an honest statement on the other. It's amazing the cognitive differences.
And it's funny how much we get criticized because you guys just hate police. Meanwhile, it's apparent that the police department actually thinks that they are a monolith, that it's all one hive mind, because nobody could possibly be talking to us. Nobody could possibly disagree with them.
Just
And it's also
So,
hive mind because they all know what every officer ever did in every car, in every house, in every business place, on every street. They know it all. None of the claims could be true.
not the one. Hey, can I just point out real quickly for the people who have said to us that there's no way on earth a deputy chief would ever talk to us against Chief Saucier. 3 of the 4 named deputy chiefs in the statement sued the city of Worcester.
Well, let's be accurate. They filed a
It is what it is.
Cop welfare complaint, civil service complaint.
Right, but that was just 6 months ago. All right,
Yes.
that was literally just last year, and they felt that they needed to exercise their prerogative. 3 of the 4 named deputy chiefs. So it's just, hey, clean up your own house, guys, because I just want to let you know there's more than one deputy chief that talks to me. Just so you understand, like, you don't realize who and what you're dealing with, and you got to really start to think about yourselves. All right, remember that you have to think about yourselves. You really, really, really do. Start thinking about who's around you, who's talking to you, and whether or not the officers that you serve with even like you, because it is a dysfunctional environment over there. And again, more than almost 10% of the total force of the city of Worcester, I have spoken to in 4 days. Almost 10. That's insane. That's not like a little number, guys. And these are, and by the way, I'm not the only person they're speaking to, right? I'm not the only person they're speaking to. There's more to come. And this is just the beginning. And the reason we were trusted with it is because they knew that we would protect our sources.
Yep.
That's why they came to me and Tom, because we will not allow our sources to be revealed and to be threatened. We will protect them. And for the officers who are watching right now, captains and deputy chiefs and lieutenants and sergeants and regular officers, you can reach out to me at any time. You know how to get a hold of me, and we can have wonderful discussions, and you will always, always be protected by This Week in Worcester. Your unions won't protect you. The chief of police won't protect you. The city manager certainly won't. But Tom Marino and John Everquillo, we will protect your name and keep your information secret always, always, to the ends of the earth.
And I just want to reiterate my invitation to Mr. Anthony Petroni to come on for a one-on-one conversation. He seems to think that I would treat him unfairly. That's just not the case. There's no evidence to suggest that. But, as we saw, I mean, evidence is, we don't really need evidence. If your son was the police officers, if you're a piece of shit and you carry Hazelhurst.
Those videos didn't show anything, Tom. Nothing. We can't go too much longer. You know what's happening, Tom. It's getting close.
We're dead. And I just want to say one more time, it is so funny that they didn't name us. It is so funny.
They did not name us because.
But yeah, remember that John and I are the liars, not Hazelhurst, not Doherty, not Duffy, not the dude in the pastor's case. I forgot his name. None of those people. They're all amazing, and we're bad people.
They're great. They never did.
And I was just my very last comment is hashtag charge Duffy.
All right, you know what time it is? Does everybody know what time it is?
It is
Does everybody know?
For John's favorite part of the show.
See, now here's the only time that Tom Marino is not honest. And so just so the people in the chat that are hating on Tom, let me show you how unbiased I am. Tom every week says that this is my favorite part, but we all know universally across the world, literally internationally, the most important part of This Week in Worcester is Tom's favorite things. Tom's favorite things. And Leanne just checked into the chat to refute Tom Marino, and we know that it is 100% Tom's favorite things. Tom's favorite things. Okay, so each week I ask Tom a question, and I ask Tom a question about every single topic in the world you could imagine. It could be like what the best diner is, which what the best diner is. What
I mean,
the
I gotta put it up.
what the
Come
best,
on now.
what the
I got
the
enough. I
best
got
Denzel
enough of that coming
performance?
at me.
That's right. That's right. What Tom's favorite his favorite candy. We have gone over and over again Tom's favorite things. And so this week in particular, as most of you know, we are having a fundraiser in Norton, Massachusetts for the Old Friends movie that we filmed back in May, right? So if you're interested in that, go to hollywood.com. That's Hollywood with 3 O's, WOOT.com. Click on Old Friends, projects, Old Friends, and then you can see the information about the movie. But at that event, there's going to be games and raffles and all kinds of fun things. And so, Tom, I came up with an interesting question. And the question is for you is, what's your favorite like party game to play when you have like a gathering together? Now, Tom is not social, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys
I
knew
don't
that.
do parties with people.
He doesn't do parties. But if you were to do a party, Tom, what would be your favorite game to play at the party? And everybody in the chat, check in and tell me what it is. It could be a board game. It could be, like some kind of social party game. What's your favorite game to play at a party?
Yeah, somebody please give me some ideas because I'm blanking. And I just while we wait for some ideas, I just want to say, I'm not into like banning people. I mean, I obviously have blocked people from the page, but I'm not into it, and I'm not telling. You can say what you want. Essentially, I just wanted to say, like, I don't let there's been a little bit of infighting, and I'm not a big fan. But like, whatever. If you guys want to go back and forth, it's fine. I don't like going after people's families or making accusations about the size of people's junk. Stuff like that. It's just not my thing. Like, I like to do the facts. Again, it's not like a threat to throw you out of here or nothing. I'm just saying it's not my thing. That's all.
We just don't put that stuff on the screen, because that's what it is. So if you want to get your comment on the screen, don't do that stuff.
I mean, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying, I'm not a big fan. I mean, the only thing that comes to mind for me is beer pong, and I don't even do beer. I don't even do beer.
Look at all the ideas in the chat. Look at all the ideas. You got code names, Sam Sachs with strip poker, Ashley with Scrabble, Maria with charades, Leon with taboo. I'm not categories for Maria. I'm not saying her next one. Pool volleyball for Gino. This is great.
I'll go. I'll just give a generic charades because I got nothing.
Charades is fun. I like doing puzzles as a team. I enjoy puzzles. I like that a lot. I like video games. Leanne has in her office. Leanne's got a Nintendo GameCube, and I played little Zelda on there a little bit. So Mario Kart could be something that we go for, a little Mario Kart action. I also like doing like everybody pick a prompt kind of thing, like get to know you games, like those kind of things, like two truths and a lie. I like those kind of games. Those are fun. Those are enjoyable. I also love name that tune. Name that tune is fire. Especially when people get it wrong. That's even more fun. You get hear them singing the wrong lyrics. I love that. Love that kind of stuff. So those are good games. This was a good one, Tom. We got the whole thing lit up over there. Look at all these things. What do you mean?
This is a good one.
Look at everybody going. Mario Party. Don't care what game.
Pin the tail on a donkey. What are we doing?
It's the life of the party. Put Freddy's on the screen. Put Freddy. I don't care what game. I'm all in. Oh, that's right. That's right, Freddie. Trivia too, by the way, on Thursday nights, not this Thursday because we're doing the fundraiser, but Thursday nights we do trivia over at Birch Street Bread. It's a great thing. So you can go over there and check out trivia if you want. It's fun. It's a great time at the I forget what the name of the trivia is. Leanne probably remembers. But yeah, we're doing the fundraiser Thursday, guys, again in Norton. Please come out and support Allison Rothwell. She went all in and she took out a loan and she raised the money herself to pay for the movie. And so we're raising some funds. We got Maddie Smith from Wild and Out is coming to do.
Who is hysterical on stage, by the way.
Yes, very funny. And so I'm actually picking her up from the train at some point on Thursday. So that's going to be fun. And then Trevor Pennick from the band O-Town, he's going to do a comedy set. Apparently, he's also a comedian as well. And then Aaron Leidecker from Boston, another local comedian. And then we're going to have games. Maybe there'll be some of these games. Maybe we'll use some of the games in the chat here to enhance the fundraiser. Check it out. Hollywood.com, WOOT. That's 3 O's. If you want to get it, click on projects, click on old friends, and come hang out with us. Fill the room for Allison. She's cool. And then you can check out on the Hank Stoll show tomorrow morning, me and Tommy Dwyer, who wrote an article on This Week in Worcester today. So check out Tommy Dwyer's testimony about his artistic journey. That's a new series that we're doing. Tom and I are doing various voices and trying to, kind of expand on local voices. Those are unedited documents. There is a word limit. We're not trying to have, 63-page long documents, but, we're going to get a series of voices of people sharing their stories here locally. And then we're very close to having our own sports guy, like really close, this close. This Week in Worcester continues to expand.
I don't think I yelled very much. Like, I yelled a little bit.
Nah, you didn't yell that much tonight. You did pretty good.
I have to try harder next time. So it was an interesting week, and I thank you all for tuning in. I hope this was worth the hype. I don't know if there was hype. I tried to hype it. We're going to keep doing what we're doing, which is telling the truth based on the facts. And I know there's been some things said in the chat. I am still hopeful that the chief officer is the right guy to be a change agent in that department, which it desperately needs. But if our city manager and city councilors are going to continue to abandon that man and throw him to the wolves of insanely powerful police unions, and look, you notice I didn't say a word about the election of Thomas Duffy, because you know what? Union members can vote for whoever they want. I am sure he's an effective union leader because he's just a bulldog. What I'm not okay with is people who should have been charged for aiding and abetting shooting culprits to be running around doing a media tour saying that city councilors should be charged. It is the idiotic, totally fumbled. Attell took money from the daughter of a cop killer. I mean, it was a stupid accusation anyway, and then wasn't true. It's election year nonsense.
Election year
you might not have liked what she did, but if Pastor Rizzuti wasn't assaulted, nobody was assaulted on Eureka Street.
Yeah.
If that can happen to a guy because he said words, then nobody was assaulted on Eureka Street. You don't get to have it. We want super citizens.
If you want to have effect, guys, come down to Tuesday nights, right? Freddie Nathan will be there, right? Tom comes down sometimes. Come down and hang out and interact with the people. You get a chance to. I mean, I know there's metal detectors and security guards and all that other stuff going, but come down to City Hall, sit with me. Let's talk about the council meeting. Let's talk about this stuff. Let's engage with these folks. I think that the more that we tell the truth and the more that we bring things to the light, the more likely it is that you'll get engaged voters who feel like they have a space to say, to share stuff and feel safe, just like we had happen this week. That's what happened. Tom and I have provided a space where people can come to us and they feel safe. That's why you're getting this information. And so we just need to encourage that as a movement in the city, that people can share and they feel safe to share, and they don't feel they're going to be attacked or persecuted just because they say, hey, this person made me feel a certain way or whatever. Let's do that. And again, we understand that means holding sometimes even our friends accountable, right? We understand that. We recognize that. And again, I spent I spent the whole decade being accountable. So I understand it very much. All right. I think Leanne's
yeah.
telling us to end the show. We're all getting told to go home. So thank you for joining us, everybody.
Too long. Yes. Thank you to everybody who watched. The numbers are crazy today. I wonder why. Thank you, Mr. Police Department, for the extra promo. And we will try to shoot up less next week. Until then, deuces.
And Fred brings cookies to Tuesday. So come get some cookies from Fred.
That's the most important part of Tuesdays.